Imagine a world without the internet. No social media, no online shopping, no streaming, no instant communication, no search engines. Just a world where the information you seek is only available through physical means. Books, face-to-face conversations, and distant mail. This is the world we step into. A world where the internet as we know it was never invented. What happens to society, business, politics, and communication? How does the absence of a digital age affect the course of humanity? The year is 2025, and we find ourselves looking back, wondering, what if the internet had never been created? How different would life be? Without the ability to instantly connect across the globe, the world remains vast, distant, and isolated. Let's explore this alternative reality. In a world without the internet, the pace of life is slower. Communication is more deliberate. People rely on landline phones, written letters, and face-to-face conversations to connect with one another. In the early years, the absence of the internet feels like a small inconvenience. There are no social media feeds to scroll through, no emails to check, no notifications to constantly interrupt daily life. For some, this may seem like a peaceful retreat from the chaos of modern life. People can focus more on their immediate surroundings and relationships. But for others, the absence of the internet feels like a barrier, an invisible wall keeping them from the outside world. Imagine a young student in rural America, eager to learn about the latest scientific discoveries. Without access to Google or YouTube, their learning comes from textbooks, libraries, and the occasional TV program. The vast knowledge that's readily available to students around the world is now limited to local resources. The internet would have allowed students in small towns to connect with experts, share research, and access the latest news in real time. Without it, the global exchange of knowledge is slowed down dramatically. The world feels more like a collection of isolated islands, with people and ideas separated by distance and lack of communication. The absence of the internet has profound effects on the business world. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, companies relied on traditional methods to conduct business. Mail, fax machines, and telephones were the primary tools for communication. But without the internet, the rapid expansion of e-commerce, online advertising, and global supply chains never happens. Instead, businesses must rely on brick-and-mortar stores, local markets, and in-person transactions. The rise of global giants like Amazon, eBay, and Alibaba never occurs. Instead of browsing millions of products online, people shop at local department stores, where selections are limited to what's available on the shelves. Investment in technology is slow. With no online platforms, the stock market operates in traditional ways, with traders shouting across crowded rooms instead of executing trades at the speed of light. The speed of business transactions is measured in days and weeks, not milliseconds. There are no instant payments, no digital marketing campaigns. Companies rely on word of mouth and traditional advertising methods like TV commercials, billboards, and print ads. Without the digital revolution, the global economy grows at a much slower pace, with many industries unable to take advantage of technological efficiencies that could have propelled them forward. Without the internet, people's lives follow a much slower rhythm. News travels at a leisurely pace. No viral content, no instant updates. Instead, news is delivered through newspapers, radio, and television broadcasts. Major events take days, if not weeks, to spread across the world. The concept of real-time news is non-existent. When a natural disaster strikes or a political crisis erupts, it takes time for information to reach people in distant lands. International coordination is slow and cumbersome, requiring phone calls and physical mail. In the absence of social media, individuals can focus more on local communities. The immediate circle of friends, family, and neighbors becomes the center of social life. People engage in face-to-face conversations, attend social gatherings, and participate in community events. There are no constant digital distractions pulling attention away from the present moment. While this may sound idyllic, the absence of the internet also means that social change occurs at a much slower pace. Without the ability to mobilize quickly, social movements have a harder time spreading their messages. The grassroots campaigns that flourished online in our reality would have been confined to small groups of activists and local gatherings. Protests would have been limited to the places where people lived, rather than spreading across the globe. In a world without the internet, political discourse is significantly different. Governments retain much more control over the flow of information. The press, which still includes newspapers, television, and radio, serves as the primary source of news, but it lacks the diversity and reach it would have in a connected world. There are no viral social movements, no hashtag campaigns pushing for justice or change. Political resistance is slower and more localized, relying on rallies, leaflets, and word of mouth to spread messages of reform. The influence of political figures is tied more to traditional media, which is often limited by government censorship or corporate interests. In elections, the methods of campaigning remain traditional. Candidates still rely on televised debates, rallies, and direct mail to connect with voters. Political ads are aired on TV, and phone banks are used to reach potential voters. There is no instant online polling, no get-out-the-vote campaigns powered by social media, and no real-time updates on election night. The transparency that the internet brought to politics in our world doesn't exist here. In fact, governments are able to control the narrative far more effectively. Public officials can hide behind the traditional media, controlling what gets reported and leaving much of the population in the dark. The absence of social media means that politicians can lie more easily and corruption is harder to expose. While this results in a certain stability and less chaotic online discourse, it also leads to a world where freedom of speech is far more limited. Political activism is harder, and public dissent has to be organized in more traditional ways, with marches, protests, and petitions. Without the internet, knowledge spreads slowly. The dream of online learning, of accessing a world of information at any time, is impossible. Students no longer have the ability to watch educational videos on YouTube, read blog posts on scientific discoveries, or take courses from universities across the globe. Instead, students depend on physical libraries, textbooks, and face-to-face teaching. There are no MOOCs, massive open online courses, no TED Talks, and no forums where they can discuss topics with others. In some places, the educational system is limited by what is available locally. People's access to knowledge is limited by where they live, what resources they have, and their social connections. This world, while still rich in human potential, misses out on the global collaboration that the internet enables. Scientific research is confined to individual countries, and discoveries take longer to spread. Without the internet, communication is slower and more deliberate. People write letters instead of sending instant messages. International calls are expensive and require planning. Video calls are a distant dream. In this world, personal relationships are more intimate in some ways. Without the constant intrusion of digital notifications, people can focus more on the present moment. Friends meet in person rather than through a screen. Couples separated by distance rely on handwritten letters or expensive phone calls to stay in touch. But despite these benefits, the world feels more isolated. There is no global village, no instant access to the lives of friends and family members across the world. Social networks don't exist, so people have to work harder to maintain connections. The friendships formed in this world are grounded in reality, but they are fewer and they require more effort. In many ways, this world feels like a more real place, a place where people engage with each other face to face and value the time spent together. But it is also a place where the world feels more distant and people are more disconnected from the global community. Entertainment in a world without the internet is limited by the availability of physical media. Movies are shown in theaters, and the newest blockbusters are released on VHS or DVD. Music is distributed through CDs, cassette tapes, and records. The concept of streaming services is non-existent. If you want to hear your favorite band's new album, you need to buy the physical copy. If you want to watch the latest episode of a TV show, you need to tune in at a scheduled time. There are no binge-watching marathons, no streaming platforms offering millions of movies at your fingertips. The media landscape is more fragmented, and people are far more selective about what they consume. You can't watch a viral video because it doesn't exist. There are no YouTube stars or viral content that spreads across the globe. While this slower pace of entertainment might be considered nostalgic for some, it also means fewer voices are heard. Independent artists and creators have a harder time reaching large audiences. The democratization of content creation, which the internet helped foster, never comes to be. Without the internet, society evolves differently. People never experience the rush of scrolling through endless feeds, never fall into the trap of comparing their lives to the filtered snapshots of others. There's no pressure to reinvent yourself with each new post. No algorithms pushing you toward content that feeds your insecurities or desires. But there's also no constant connection to the world. There's no instant communication with someone across the globe. No way to learn from the masses, to connect with individuals whose lives and perspectives are vastly different from yours. The world is quieter, it's slower. People sit in coffee shops talking instead of texting. They write letters instead of emails. The idea of a global village doesn't exist. The global community is fractured, distant. But in exchange, there is a more tangible, local world. People are closer to their families, to their immediate surroundings. Communities feel more rooted in place. Yet there's a cost to all this. The internet brought us closer, yes. It allowed us to share ideas instantly. We could learn, collaborate, and innovate at a pace that was previously unimaginable. Without the internet, the pace of innovation slows dramatically. Scientific discoveries are delayed, and many are never made at all. People still dream of reaching the stars, but in this world, there's no SpaceX to help them get there. The dream of a Mars colony is just that, a dream. Collaboration between countries on a global scale is hindered. No online platforms allow scientists to share their findings instantly with colleagues around the world. Research is isolated, fragmented. In this world, information spreads more slowly. For every breakthrough, there are years, if not decades, of delay before the rest of the world hears about it. Knowledge is still valuable, but it is less accessible. People still strive for it, but they're bound by the limitations of geography and communication. And then the great philosophical questions loom larger than ever before. Were we better off without the internet? Did we lose something essential by not having a digital connection to the world, by not having the tools to instantly share ideas? Or did we find something deeper, something more human, by sticking to the slower, more deliberate pace of pre-internet life? So, what if the internet had never been invented? This world we live in today is one of endless connectivity, instant gratification, and constant change. We are more connected than ever before. Yet paradoxically, we are more isolated in some ways. We are constantly bombarded by information, yet we often feel like we know less than ever. In this world, without the internet, people live more analog lives. They speak face to face, write by hand, and think more deeply about the knowledge they consume. They rely on slower, more deliberate forms of communication and entertainment. There is no endless stream of content to occupy every spare second. This world is quieter, it is simpler, but it is also less efficient. The great human quest for knowledge and progress moves at a much slower pace. Without the digital highways that we take for granted, it is much harder for the world to share ideas and innovate together. Yet is it really worse, or is it just different? Perhaps this world without the internet is a world that is more in tune with the rhythms of nature, with the pace of life before technology became ubiquitous. Maybe it is a world where people are more present, more connected to their surroundings and to each other in ways that the digital world has made harder to maintain. But as we look back on this story, one question remains unanswered. If the internet had never been invented, would we have been able to tell this story at all? A world without the internet may be more present, but it's also more isolated. The question is, does that make it more human or less? Without a digital world to connect us, we may never know the answer. And perhaps that's the greatest mystery of all. Well, the internet has shaped our lives in ways we often take for granted. It connects us, it educates us, and it transforms our economies and societies. But a world without it would be a world of profound differences. It might be slower, quieter, more deliberate, but would it also be more fulfilling? As we reflect on this alternative timeline, the question is clear. What kind of world do we want to create? Is it one of endless connectivity, or one where we slow down, value human interaction, and embrace a simpler existence? Maybe in that world where the internet never existed, we would find something that we've lost, or something we never even knew we had.